Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. Well, folks, the season, if you can believe it, is coming to a close. We are in the final week as far as the Iowa Hawkeye. I mean, I think most teams go. This is the final week of college football. We will have one more Big Ten whip around after this for sure. Maybe one more when the bowl season concludes, in which I will review all of the Big Ten games when it comes to the bowl games. Now, you know, the thing with the bowl games that's tough, that's very difficult, is unless you are like really, really, really plugged in, it is very difficult to assess every single team's eligibility, I guess. The players that did play, that did not play, of their top players. Now, ultimately, you know, I really think that if you were to weigh it, you know, Iowa, let's say Iowa has one or two guys forego the bowl game to play or to train for the combine or for the NFL. I think that would affect Iowa maybe by 1 or 2 points, but they'd still mostly be competitive. And I think that's probably the case for most teams, with the exception of maybe quarterback play and things like that. When it comes to the other positions, you know, they are very impactful, of course, but football is not basketball. Football, and a lot of fans make this mistake. Football, it has way more players on the field, and really the only player, with the exception of like a Deion Sanders or a Darrelle Revis, which we have seen, it's very rare, outside of, you know, a Brian Urlacher, outside of those like really, 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 a Devin Hester, really, obviously I'm a Bears fan, you guys can tell, really, really elite non-quarterback guys. Outside of that, it's really the quarterback that can make like that significant of an impact if they do or do not play. So, but nonetheless, it is still very difficult to assess as a whole, but I will definitely do my best. As for this week, by the way, guys, if you guys are not subscribed, smash the subscribe button, like, comment, share. You guys know the drill. If you guys want to donate to the channel, you absolutely can through the description, PayPal, Cash App, or through the donation button on the video. This week, you know, there wasn't a ton of craziness that happened. I would say that the two most significant games, the two most competitive games, would be Wisconsin versus Nebraska and Iowa versus Illinois. Iowa has officially clinched the Big Ten West. And as an Iowa fan, you know, I want to make it known, I would really love to see them beat Nebraska, obviously. And not just that, I would love to see Iowa win 10 regular season games. You know, of late, I've seen a lot of fans coming out of the woodworks, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube videos, my videos, that are coming forth with kind of this like, and I always reference this because there really are two types of fans, especially when it comes to the Iowa fan base. Or, you know, there's probably more than that, but there's two main types of fans. There are the fans who, I would say I'm in this camp, who believe it's okay to critique and say what the issues are that we see on the football field. And obviously, we know that we're not a football coach. We know we're not a part of the team. But I always say we pay our money to support this team. We are a part of the program, albeit in a small way. We're still a part of the program in some way. And then you have the fans who think that if you critique any aspect of the Iowa Hawkeyes, it is blasphemous. It is disloyal. And I am definitely seeing a lot of those fans coming out in light of Iowa being 9-2. Hell, I even see Kirk Ferentz doing it. And it really does bother me because Kirk Ferentz really likes to play the, I wouldn't say play the victim. He likes to do this, situation where, once Iowa becomes 9-2 or whatever the case may be, and he certainly has a point. Okay. I'm not saying he does not have a point. He likes to say, see, told you so. You shouldn't have critiqued our offense. You shouldn't have critiqued Brian. How dare you get rid of Brian? Look at us now. I think that was the title of one of the articles in lieu of Iowa's victory over Illinois. And it's just ridiculous because, two things can be true at once. I mean, come on, guys. It can be equally true that on one hand, the team as a whole is still a pretty solid team, regardless of the offense or in spite of the offense. I always say Iowa wins in spite of the offense. And we can be really happy about that and admit that it's a really amazing triumphant. It really is. It's, I always, the last couple of weeks, I've given the stat that Iowa is the first team, and it was shown in Iowa's game against Rutgers. Iowa is the first team since LSU to average less than 20 points and win 7 or more football games. Okay. It is spectacular. It defies logic. But it can be equally true that that is a horrid way to win football games. And it can be equally true that as a fan, it's fatiguing, it's exhausting. And it can be equally true that on one hand, we can see how good the defense is. We can see the overall record. We can, see that Iowa is a Big Ten West champion, but also say to ourselves, dang, if Iowa just had a slightly better offense, we'd be playoff contenders. And I really don't see what the issue with that mindset is. I really don't. And so I see a lot of the, if you critique Iowa in any way crowd coming out and saying, things to the effect of, say what you will about the Iowa offense, but it's mighty impressive that Iowa is 9-2. I can't believe that we don't have more respect on our name, guys. This is not rocket science. The media, hell, even most Iowa fans are exhausted with how Iowa wins football games. It's very fatiguing. Is it still a hell of an accomplishment? Of course, but that doesn't also mean that Iowa should and needed to move off of Brian Ferentz. Okay. Iowa's offensive stats this year, which let me show. I need to continue because I just get so tired of this, where this like two wrongs make a right, type of mindset, I don't know if that's the right phrasing, where it's, they go, well, Iowa's 9-2. You can't critique Iowa football. And I mean, told you so. They're 10-2. Guys, I predicted Iowa to be 10-2. I picked them to be 11-1. Okay. I have been one of the very few who has been spot on about Iowa the last 5 years. Okay. But there really is no issue with calling out the Iowa offense and hoping for just a slight improvement in the offense. And I've been saying this for weeks now. To tell you the truth, I'm exhausted about saying it. But guys, look at this. Guys, this is total offense, okay? Total offense. And if you don't believe me, you think I came up with this page myself, you can go to any team's NCAA football team stat Iowa site. I recommend NCAA's website. Iowa is last in total offense and has been last for the past like 7-8 weeks, guys. Not only have they been bad, like historically bad, they've been bad all year. And, the last point, they're averaging 245.4 yards per game. The last point that I want to make is, to me, it's very interesting to see those fans come out of the woodworks when Iowa is 9-2. But when they're winning, they want to be on the side of, oh, told you so. They're 9-2. They're great. But when Iowa loses, they want to clamor only in that moment that the offense sucks. And it's like, no. You need to be consistent. You need to do it regardless of the situation. You need to call a spade regardless, because, that ultimately is what makes this so like dumbfounding and historical. This Iowa Hawkeye team is that they are 9-2, yet the offense is so bad. And when we have games like Iowa did against Minnesota and against Penn State, and this is what I said in one of my comments, Iowa really should be 10-1 right now. It's only not a problem until it's a problem. Okay. But I am not okay with that. For me personally, I need to call it out regardless of the situation, regardless of if Iowa is winning football games. I need to call it out, because I'm not going to be somebody who only calls it out when Iowa loses to Minnesota. And yes, Iowa, regardless of the invalid catch, lost because of the ineptness of the offense. And same with the Penn State game. So it's only not a problem until it is a problem. And, think about it, guys. If Iowa was just slightly better, they would be on offense. They'd be 10-1, vying for a playoff spot. You could even make the case that they would have had a chance against Penn State if they were just slightly better offensively. This is scoring offense. I really wasn't planning to make this a big spiel, but I think that it's important to talk about because Iowa is 9-2, and we saw it last year too. It was the same rigmarole where fans say, told you so. Who cares if the offense, when they're winning games, it's easy to say that. Who cares if the offense stinks? But then when they lost to Nebraska, and Nebraska stole their season from playing in the Big Ten championship game for the second year in a row, then it's, the offense is terrible. No, you need to be consistent. Okay. You need to be consistent. Iowa is 121st in scoring offense. They are averaging less than 20 points per game at 18.4. Guys, Brian Ferentz early in his career averaged, one of the seasons, Brian averaged 30 points a game. Can you believe that? One of Brian Ferentz's years, he averaged 31 points a game. You know what? That would actually be a very interesting stat to pull, is some of Brian's old offensive numbers. So this is from 2017, and this was not the best Brian Ferentz year, but Iowa averaged 25 points per game, 24.9. I'll go ahead and move it to the side. There you guys can see it, 24.9. Let's type in 2018 NCAA football team stats. And like I said, it's easy enough. You can just look at the NCAA's website. I would type it in on Google first because it is hard to I can't find the year tab, but so this is 2018. We've moved forward 1 year, and I can't remember exactly when Brian Ferentz took over as OC. You know what? We probably should look that up first before we continue. But like I said, I really wasn't planning on having this be a big spiel, but you know, I've seen it all, guys. I've been doing this long enough now where I really have seen a lot of kind of how the ebbs and flows go. So 2018 was his first year. Okay, so 2017 was not even Brian Ferentz. So this is 2018. This is his first year as offensive coordinator. This is scoring offense here. Okay. 66th. Iowa averaged 28.2 points per game. Can you guys believe that? And the following year, 2019, he did even better. 66th. If Iowa averaged just over 20 points per game, they'd be in a good spot. They averaged 28.2 points per game, 2018. Let's see what the total offense was. And, you know, this is why these stats, I knew these stats, which is why I stayed not loyal, but stayed open to the possibility of Brian improving because I knew these stats. I knew what he was capable of. But now that Ken O'Keefe and Greg Davis are gone, Tim Polasek, I really do think that most of it had to do with other coaches rather than Brian. But I could be wrong. It could be that Kirk Ferentz just said, you know, enough's enough. You guys, as an offense scoring points is not doing it for us. 116, they averaged 329.5 yards per game. Let's do one more. We'll look at 2019. NCAA team. NCAA football team stats. So, I mean, it's remarkable. So this is total defense. Iowa was 7th in total defense. I mean, they've always been spectacular. Let's look at total offense. This is 2019. This would have been Brian Ferentz's second year. I mean, make no mistake, guys. Iowa was never like above average under Brian, but they were better than what they are now. 91st, and they averaged 375 yards of total offense. I mean, I cannot even imagine Iowa doing that now. Yards per play, 5.44. And last, let's look at scoring O. And then we'll go back to this week's action. My shows are totally unscripted, guys. And, you know, I never know for sure. I have an idea of what I'm going to talk about before, but never for sure. Okay, Iowa. You guys are not going to believe this. Iowa in 2019 was actually an above average scoring offense. Okay, they were 43rd. That would be that there's 130 teams in the country. Okay, 40, 80. So that's, you know, if you're in the top 45, you're an above average team at that stat. Because 130 divided by 369, 12. Yeah, it's about 45, I'd say. hold on. Let's see. Let's do the math in my head. 130. So 4. So it'd be about 43, actually. So Iowa was just on the cusp. If you're in the top 4, so it's, 3 divided by 130 is about 43. If you're in the top 43, that means you're in the top quarter or third, rather, of scoring on. Iowa averaged 31.2 points per game. Good for 43rd in the country. 31.2. But conversely, let's see what their record was in 2019. Let's see. Well, they were 10-3. Not bad. I mean, that's still a really good record, guys. They were 10-3. And I think that was actually Nate Stanley's last year. So, anyways, guys, that's my thought. As for on that, let's move on here. As for my thoughts on Iowa winning the Big Ten West, I really do think it's a great accomplishment. Obviously, I can't stand people who say, when we lose to Penn State and Ohio State, well, at least we're not going to have to play them in the Big Ten championship game and get shellacked. I hate that mindset. No matter what, playing in the Big Ten championship game is a tremendous honor and great for your football team. And that type of mindset is just silly, because if you have that lowly of a view of the Big Ten West, if Iowa can't even win the conference that you have such a lowly opinion of, then what does that make Iowa? So, but they beat Illinois. It was a very hard fought game. The safety ended up being the difference maker in the game. And Iowa got, I think this is a second year in a row. Let's see if they beat. No, Iowa did not beat Illinois last year. They lost 10-6. That's right. So tremendous honor. I really want Iowa to finish the regular season with 10 wins and get a victory over Nebraska after Nebraska, did what they did to steal Iowa's season last year. I'm actually quite nervous about that game. It's a rivalry game. Iowa, has really been hit or miss in that game. It's either been Iowa comes out and shellacks Nebraska, or Iowa comes out kind of slow and soft and are playing catch up the entire game. And Nebraska, regardless of their record, has a lot of talent on their roster. And I've said that since day one. I would say probably for the past 5 years of Nebraska football, is regardless of their record, regardless of the coaching or lack thereof, they always have talent. Nebraska is always able to recruit top 30, top 25 classes to Lincoln. But it would be tremendous. Of course, I'm going to do a game preview for that. I do think Deacon Hill played a decent game. I think he has improved. I saw a comment from somebody on Twitter who said, essentially watching some quarterbacks throw the football, they make it look so effortless. And watching Deacon throw the football, he makes it look like he's chucking a brick. And I don't really see it that way. I think Deacon has a very live arm. He's just a very big guy. So it doesn't look necessarily as smooth. But as I said, he has the capability to break the pocket. I just don't think he believes it himself. And that's why we saw against Illinois, he had one where he took off for the first down that led to a touchdown, which he's more than capable of doing, as I said he was. And then there was one where he thought about taking off, and then his confidence betrayed him and he did not. And he got hit for a sack. I think Deacon Hill can actually be a solid quarterback. And I've said that since he chose the Iowa Hawkeyes. It's going to be very interesting to see what his development is. It's going to be very interesting to see what the new offensive coordinator does at Iowa. Joe Labus is almost certainly leaving the Iowa Hawkeyes next year and transferring. I am stunned that Iowa did, even though they are having a solid year. I am still stunned that Kirk Ferentz did not choose to give Joey Labus, a scholarship quarterback that he recruited out of high school, a shot at the starting spot. But it is what it is. He will almost certainly be gone. And that is the nature of things. And I still believe that Joe Labus is going to be a good college football player. And, wherever he goes next, we'll see what happens. I mean, it is possible that he chooses to stay at Iowa and battle. The problem is, though, is that Deacon Hill is in the same year as him. So if he can't beat out Deacon Hill, then it's a tremendous hill to climb. And even if he were to stay, in other words, there's not the possibility of, Deacon Hill graduating and, by virtue, Joe Labus getting the starting spot. That's not really possible. So, unless Deacon Hill has a phenomenal year next year and Joe Labus decides to stay and Deacon Hill beats out Cade McNamara, and then Deacon Hill has a great year and heads off to the NFL, and then it's Joe Labus, but I just don't really see all that happening. So anyways, guys, moving on here from the Iowa Hawkeyes, Big Ten West champs, we had Rutgers losing to Penn State 27-6. Penn State moves to 9-2, Rutgers 6-5. Michigan escaped Maryland 31-24. And this was the game that I saw a lot of people referencing as a juxtaposition to Iowa. I saw a lot of people saying, well, what's the difference between Iowa winning 15-13 and Michigan winning 31-24? And on its face, it's yeah, it's a good point. But the thing is that this is an anomaly. Michigan usually smokes teams. Okay. This is not normal. Okay. They usually smoke teams because they have a really good offense and a really good defense. Ohio State defeated Minnesota. Minnesota is 5-6 on the year, 3-5 in the Big Ten. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to PJ Fleck, and Minnesota. PJ Fleck has not really cemented himself. And I think he's been there long enough to do so. When he first got to Minnesota, there was a ton of energy and excitement behind him. And that's, he's been there for a minute now. And I think Minnesota is at a place where either they're good with what he offers, which is, they're not great. Every 2-3 years they have a decent team, but every other year they're lucky to be 500. And that's pretty much what they are on average. Is a average to slightly above average football team with 1 year every 3 to 4 years where they win 8-9 games. Michigan State defeated Indiana. I can almost guarantee Tom Allen is going to be gone at Indiana, especially, all these Big Ten programs are going to be looking to take heads, as it were, with the new programs coming into the Big Ten. Tom Allen had his 1 year in the limelight. And since then, Michael Penix Jr. has left, gone to Washington, Heisman candidate. I think there's a good chance he's going to win the Heisman, actually. And Indiana has had losing seasons multiple years since. So Northwestern, the stunner of the Big Ten, you guys know I've been saying this for a few weeks now. They're going to be somebody to keep an eye on, guys. They really are. They're 6-5, 4-4 in the Big Ten, and they are second in the Big Ten West, I believe. They're going to be the head coach at Northwestern is going to be somebody to keep an eye on, because Northwestern, looking at their season as I did when I did the game preview for Iowa versus Northwestern, they've really battled this year and been competitive. And to tell you the truth, the talent level on this year's team was not very good. So they have absolutely outperformed what the talent level is on their team. Shows you what good coaching gets you. And then lastly, Wisconsin comes from behind and wins in overtime over Nebraska at home. Massive victory for Wisconsin. I was actually happy to see Wisconsin beat Nebraska. I would love it if Nebraska again was not bowl eligible, to tell you the truth. I mean, I don't like Wisconsin either, but it's just something about Nebraska fans and Nebraska in general. I just don't like the program very much, but as an Iowa fan, obviously. But it was very interesting. They battled back. Nebraska was up on them 14-0. They chipped away, had it down to 14-10, 17-14, 17 all, and then of course Wisconsin with 7 points in overtime. Lastly, guys, let's take a look at the last couple of things, really. Let's look at the Big Ten standings here. With 1 week left, the showdown between Michigan and Ohio State is going to be huge. Both of them sit atop of the Big Ten. Iowa is Big Ten West champs, 9-2, 6-2 in conference. Northwestern would love, if Northwestern can finish second in the Big Ten, it would be huge for them. It would be absolutely huge. Their last game of the season is against Illinois. Very, very winnable. So, and I think Illinois is decent, The Big Ten West has just a bunch of like average football teams. That's what the Big Ten West has, and one decent team in the Iowa Hawkeyes. So we'll see what the last week holds us, but for now, that's what we got. I did quickly want to reference this. This is the strength of schedule rankings for 2023. See what the updated rankings are. Let's see here. Iowa now has the 30. Let's see. So the guru rank for Iowa is 30th, and Iowa has the 36th toughest schedule in the country. And remember when everybody said that, Iowa had one of the easiest schedules in the country, and I said, don't fall for it, guys. That is just BS. But they're kind of low on them on the they had them down 5 spots, which is very interesting. But anyways, let's kind of go rapid fire here. I want to show the top 25 rankings. Here, Iowa, of course, at 20. In the AP, they jumped several spots. They were not ranked in the AP poll. Now they are. And then they are at number 19 in the coaches poll. So, and then as for top 25 scores, Georgia defeated Tennessee 38-10. Minnesota, of course, lost to Ohio State. We talked about Michigan, Maryland. Florida State 58-13 over North Alabama. Washington with the 2-point victory over 11th ranked Oregon State. Excellent victory for the Washington Huskies. Oregon with a shellacking of Arizona State 49-13. Texas defeated Iowa State 26-16, essentially ending Iowa State's bid for a Big 12 championship. But I think Iowa State has rebounded for an okay year this year. And I think they have a decent quarterback for the future in Rocco Becht. Alabama shellacked Chattanooga 66-10. Missouri defeated Florida 33-31. Louisville defeated Miami 38-31. Talked about Penn State. Ole Miss with the 35-3 victory over UL Monroe. Oklahoma 31-24 over BYU. LSU 56-14 over Georgia State. Talked about Iowa. I predict, by the way, Iowa to go up to 15 or 14th in the college football rankings, playoff rankings, excuse me. You know, the playoff committee is a little bit higher on Iowa than everybody else is. Arizona with the victory over Utah 42-18. Notre Dame, and crazy how people were saying the head coach at Utah was the best coach in the country. 42-18 over the Utes. Notre Dame 45-7 over Wake Forest. Clemson 31-20 over North Carolina. Clemson rebounding for an okay year. Probably not for Clemson standards, though. Kansas State with the 31-27 victory over Kansas. They are having a good bounce back year, 8-3 overall. Oklahoma State 43-30 over Houston, and Tulane 24-8 over Florida Atlantic. And lastly, let's see here. Let me get my tier rankings pulled up. All right, guys. So, I think I'm actually going to move Iowa to tier 1. Obviously, I'm not going to have them jump Penn State, Michigan, or Ohio State, but I think they are tier 1. They're not tier 1 in the same way that Ohio State or Michigan or even Penn State are, but I think they are tier 1 all the same. I mean, anytime you're in the Big Ten championship game, you know, tier 1 is usually the top 4 or 5 teams in the conference. Tier 2, let's see. Maryland did have a pretty good game against Michigan. I think I'm going to keep that the same. I think I'm going to keep everything the same. I mean, you know, Northwestern got a victory. Rutgers did lose. Let's see what Rutgers. Let's see what Rutgers win-loss record is. 6-5, and Wisconsin is 6-5. I think I'm going to have Wisconsin over Rutgers because they have one more Big Ten victory. So we'll just flip-flop those two. But everything else will stay the same. I mean, I don't who did Michigan State defeated Indiana? I will move them ahead of Indiana in lieu of the victory. And that's going to be it, guys. That is my tiers. We had a little bit of movement, but nothing too crazy. That is going to do it for me today, guys. I really do appreciate you guys watching. We only have a little bit of the season left. I hope you guys are pleased with the content that I've put out this football season. I hope you guys consider smashing that subscribe button, like, comment, share. You guys know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy with all facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you guys. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.